Today, I'm diving into a pretty intense situation brewing in Hamburg that's got the whole city feeling uneasy. Early this morning, there was a violent incident at a former hotel building on the southeast side, and it sent patrol cars speeding to the scene. Officers acted fast and managed to arrest a suspect, but unfortunately, paramedics couldn't save a man's life. It's a tough way for residents to start their week, and you can totally understand why folks are feeling shaken. Now, if that wasn't enough, something even stranger is going on in Germany. A 37-year-old man from Lebanon was traveling on a train from Belgium when federal police stopped him. It turns out he wasn't just overstaying his welcome. This guy had registered under 28 different names. He didn't have a valid residence permit for the Schengen zone and was actually banned from living in Germany. Yet, there he was, riding the train with a whole stack of fake identities. He's now in custody, waiting to be sent back to Lebanon. Honestly, it makes you wonder how someone pulls off 28 identities. How long has he been doing this? And how many others are out there slipping under the radar like him? On top of all this, Germany's foreign minister is facing some serious challenges over in Beijing, which just adds to the already tense vibe. Meanwhile, the Louvre is losing invaluable artifacts due to sewage issues. Definitely not a headache anyone wants to deal with. And just when you thought it couldn't get more dramatic, there's a big shift in American foreign policy that's got Europe scrambling. It's like the drama just keeps piling on. I've spent years watching how mainstream media twists stories to fit certain narratives, shaping facts to match agendas. It all became too much for me, so I decided to step away from that world. Now, I work independently, focusing on reporting what really matters without anyone getting in the way. Your support keeps this channel going, allowing me to stay honest and thorough in what I do. If you appreciate what we're up to here, think about hitting that like button, subscribing, or even becoming a sponsor. We put in serious effort to fact check and verify every detail because our mission is to keep you informed, steering clear of recycled propaganda or lazy clickbait. Stick around, because what I've got lined up next is absolutely mind-blowing. Wow, there's a lot going on right now, especially with Germany's foreign minister, Annalena Baerbock. She just got back from China, and let's just say the trip didn't go quite as she hoped. The focus was on fair trade and things like rare earth metals and semiconductor chips, basically stuff that Germany needs to keep its economy moving. But here's the twist. Baerbock has already come to terms with the fact that getting those all-important import licenses from China looks pretty unlikely. They've made a bit of headway, but it's far from enough to make a real difference. Now, China seems to want something in return. They're asking Germany to recognize the One China principle concerning Taiwan. That's quite a price to pay for these crucial resources. During her meeting with China's foreign minister, Wang Yi, they chatted about how important dialogue is, but honestly, don't expect any quick wins when it comes to those raw materials. Baerbock has got a tough job on her hands since her previous comments about Taiwan didn't sit well with Beijing, which led to her earlier trip being canceled. Back in Germany, while Baerbock is tackling international affairs, there's some serious buzz about a new study from the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. It shows that 74% of Germans without a migration background are really concerned about right-wing extremism. That's actually their biggest worry right now. Even though over 90% of people say they're happy living in Germany, that number has been on a steady decline since 2015. Interestingly, among Germans who aren't immigrants, only 37% feel they're always treated with respect. Meanwhile, 52% of foreigners in Germany say they actually feel more respected than the native Germans. That's definitely something to think about. And if we shift our focus to Paris, there's been this wild incident at the Louvre, one of the world's most famous museums. A sewage pipe burst, and believe it or not, it spilled into the Egyptian Antiquities Library, damaging around 400 items. We're talking about hundreds of priceless artifacts, some of which are in such bad shape that they can't be fixed at all. What's really frustrating is that the library staff had been raising concerns about those pipes for years. They've been leaking now and then, but management didn't seem to take their warnings seriously at all. 3 unions representing workers at the Louvre have decided they've had enough and are preparing for an indefinite strike starting on the 15th of December. The situation there is getting a bit chaotic. It seems that working conditions are deteriorating rapidly. The Louvre is already closing entire sections early almost every day because they just don't have enough staff. The place is practically falling apart with frequent technical failures, and visiting has become somewhat of an obstacle course, as the unions put it. So on top of the political and economic struggles France is facing, now they've added a major cultural crisis into the mix. Meanwhile, let's take a look at Greece, where farmers are really losing patience. They're not just sitting back anymore. They're out on the streets protesting and demanding that the government keep those European subsidies flowing. They're blocking roads and even threatening to shut down customs checkpoints, ports, and airports. This isn't just empty chatter. These farmers are incredibly frustrated about rising production costs and the pitiful prices they're getting for their goods. They're feeling the pressure from all sides and are determined to make their voices heard. And speaking of tension in Europe, 7 nations, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Germany, Hungary, Italy, Poland, and Slovakia, are pushing the European Commission to rethink that ban on diesel and gasoline cars set to start in the year 2035. There's some serious pushback happening with national governments, lawmakers, and the auto industry weighing in. It looks like the Commission might just delay this review. You can bet the Greens won't take this lightly. Protests and outrage are definitely on the horizon. These 7 countries are firm in their belief that the Commission should reconsider the policy to protect the European automotive industry's independence. Germany and Italy even co-signed a letter to strengthen their position. When you step back and take a look at the broader scenario, everything starts to link together. Just recently in Brussels, the interior ministers from EU member states wrapped up a meeting where they agreed to ramp up pressure on rejected asylum seekers, aiming to make deportations more streamlined. For those who have no right to stay in any EU country, new obligations are on the way. I've been following some interesting news lately, especially regarding Germany and the shifts across Europe. One major story making the rounds in German media is the noticeable retreat of the United States from its role as the world's enforcer. They're seriously saying that out loud now. The White House has just launched a new national security strategy, and it already has critics scratching their heads, interpreting it as a signal that America is pulling back from European affairs. This new approach from the US makes it pretty clear. They aren't looking to maintain a permanent presence everywhere anymore. Instead, they want their allies to step up and handle their own defense without offloading those responsibilities onto American taxpayers. Basically, the US will only dive into conflicts that are directly important to them. They've also thrown in some ambitious goals, like wanting to halt mass migration and rebuild trade relationships. Yes, that means dealing with tariffs, and they're planning to cut back on global security spending. They are definitely serious about not wanting to get involved in another Iraq or Afghanistan. Plus, it looks like America is done trying to impose democracy or social changes that don't align with other countries' traditions and histories. So how does this shake things up for Europe? Well, the US seems set on reshaping European politics, particularly by supporting certain right-wing parties, which they say will get a boost from America. They've even pointed fingers at the European Union and its member states, claiming they are hurting their own countries. If this keeps going, we might see some EU nations no longer considered allies by the US. That really gives you something to think about. As for the war in Ukraine, it's a top priority for Washington to wrap that up quickly. Johann Folkmann, a foreign policy expert from Germany's Christian Democratic Union, has weighed in on this new strategy, calling it a warning bell. It looks like there's a lot going on in Europe lately, especially when it comes to defense spending. There's a sense that Europeans really need to step up and invest in their own defense to gain more independence. It seems like a new world order might be taking shape, but honestly, how this plays out and how they handle any pushback against American plans is still a bit uncertain. One thing is clear, though, it won't be an easy transition. The Pentagon chief recently gave Germany a shout-out for increasing its defense budget. Pete Hegath pointed out Germany's positive change in spending and compared it to other proactive allies like Israel and South Korea. With these shifts happening, it's pretty obvious that Europe will have to adjust its strategy moving forward. Interestingly, the United States is keeping a close eye on countries like Poland, Germany, and the Baltic nations. Hegath made it pretty clear that every NATO member needs to step up their contributions to collective defense. For those who fall short, they should really be thinking about what might come next. He didn't spell out the consequences, but he did share something intriguing about President Donald Trump's approach. It really emphasizes that you need to help yourself if you want help from others. On the German front, the media is glued to this story. At the Reagan Defense Forum, Hegath didn't hold back at all. He took a shot at past American administrations, claiming that the era of American idealism is officially over. Now, it's all about harsh realism, according to him. He believes the US should stop getting sidetracked by trying to promote democracies or get involved in unclear wars. Instead, the focus is shifting towards practical national interests. When it comes to China, he suggested that the strategy should lean more towards respecting its power rather than confronting it directly. and he underscored the need for Europe to invest more in defense. No more leaning so heavily on the US allies should be able to stand on their own 2 feet. In response, a spokesperson from China's foreign ministry stated that Beijing is eager to improve its relationship with the US, while still prioritizing its sovereignty and national security. So we're really witnessing some significant changes in global politics right now. Big shifts are definitely on the horizon. But hey, let's take a moment to step back from all this serious geopolitical chatter and dive into something a bit more unusual. So let me share this wild story from Spain. 2 former nuns just found themselves in a bit of a pickle, ending up in temporary jail for allegedly selling artifacts and gold that they didn't really have the right to sell. It's a pretty big deal, right? There was already some drama with the Vatican, which led to them getting excommunicated, but they decided to hang out at the monastery anyway. When the police showed up to arrest them, you won't believe it, nobody would let them in. They had to literally force the gates open. Can you imagine how chaotic that must have been? As the officers started searching the place, they discovered a stash of art objects, and it turns out these women sold about 2 kilograms of gold, making off with around 121,000 euros. That's quite the haul. After spending a night in jail over the stolen goods, they appeared in court the next day and surprisingly got released on bail. It's kind of fascinating to think how differently things might have unfolded if they hadn't had that fallout with the Vatican. This whole situation really sheds light on where we are as a society today. It tells an interesting story about our civilization. I'd love to know your thoughts on all of this, so feel free to share them in the comments. Wishing you peaceful skies, and I'll catch you tomorrow, hoping for some good news. Oh, and before you move on, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. If independent reporting matters to you, consider supporting the channel. We're all about digging into stories that sometimes get overlooked, and keeping this going takes your help. Today, we've tackled a lot, from the crumbling infrastructure in Paris to the shifting dynamics of power over in Washington. It's a lot to unpack, and honestly, the mainstream media often skips over or misses the crucial details. That's why I'm reaching out for your support to keep this operation running. If you appreciate a voice that goes beyond just reading press releases, smashing that like button and subscribing sends a strong message to the algorithm that the truth still matters. I'd also love to invite you to think about becoming a sponsor of the channel. Getting all this right, whether it's verifying details about identity breaches or digging into the fine print of Pentagon strategies, is tough work. We do this for you, guarding against fake news and the shallow narratives that can clutter your feed. Since we don't have corporate sponsors backing us, we truly rely on you. Supporting this channel means more than just giving. It's about standing up for truth in a world full of noise. With your help, we can keep things running smoothly and make sure the facts stay clear. I'm Jonas Kraus. And as everything changes so fast, keep an eye out for what's happening. I'll catch you in the next update.